Hello and welcome to History on the Hoof. Today we're in Aysgarth in the upper part of Wensleydale in North Yorkshire, not far from the Templar Preceptory we saw last week. Sticking with a religious theme, we're going to take a look at St Andrew's Church, which sits high on a promontory above the River Ure and contains the most interesting and rare piece of our heritage. I often wonder if, sitting on the edge of the hill as it does, St Andrew's is placed on a much earlier, perhaps originally prehistoric site, which is common, taking over the site of an old religion with its new. But as yet, there is nothing to support this, and the mound by the door is rubble from works probably done at the church in the early 16th century. As it is, St Andrew's is said to have the largest churchyard in England at upwards of 4 acres. Within it are over 1,000 headstones. The earliest evidence for a Christian place of worship here came in the form of a 10th century crosshead, which was found in a nearby wall in the 1960s and sadly subsequently stolen not long ago. The name Aysgarth is also from Old Norse, iki, meaning oak, and skard, meaning cleft or open space. And prior to the Norman conquest in 1066, Aysgarth is recorded in the Domesday Book as belonging to Canute, son of Carly, a good couple of Viking names if ever there were any. Historically, we know there was a church here in the 12th century, as it was recorded as the mother church of a chapel of ease at Aysgarth. The first recorded rector was Peter de Thoresby, appointed in 1236, and one of his relatives later became Archbishop of York in 1354. Stonework from this period survives in the base of the tower. The rest of the early church fabric is from the 14th century, and it also survives in the tower and of loose pieces in the churchyard. The 1536 building was restored in 1866 by James Green, an architect from Todmorden. James Green also provides our interesting link, and in the next episode we'll explore one of his other creations, Stoodley Pike above Todmorden, built to commemorate the end of the Crimean War of 1856. As we walk down the south front of the church, take a look above what was known as a priest's door. This used to be his access to the church in times gone by, and you will see the fragment of a very interesting medieval grave slab, showing a hunting horn and at one time perhaps marking the grave of a medieval forester of Wensleydale. I'd advise anybody to always take a good look at church walls, lintels or window ledges for decorated medieval grave markers. Inside the church is the main thing we have come to see, a surviving rood screen. Now, a rood screen was used in the medieval period to divide the chancel from the nave, and this one is said to have come from Jevaulx Abbey and was carried shoulder high by 20 men, instead of being chopped up for firewood during the dissolution of the monasteries. It was made 600 years ago by the Ripon School of Carvers. To see something so old and exquisitely made by local men is quite amazing. Another story concerns Jevaulx Abbey's ownership of St Andrew's at the time, and it has been suggested the rood screen was given by them to the church and not taken from the abbey itself. Either way, it's a fabulous thing, and today forms part of the choir stalls, giving some idea of what churches used to be like before the Reformation, all carved and coloured. It's hard to imagine the woodwork is over 600 years old, and here it is, saved and preserved in this corner of Wensleydale. If you spend a bit of time looking at the painted carvings amongst the saints and apostles, you will find an elephant, dragon, fox, boar, an antelope, eagle and lion. In the medieval period, these were reminders against sin. For example, the antelope is a warning against booze and lust, illustrated by its horns entangled in branches. The 2 stall ends, now a reading desk, have the rebus of William Heslington, Abbot of Jevaulx from 1472. On the long beam amongst a myriad of animals is inscribed A.S. Abbas An Dom 1536 for Adam Sedber, the first abbot of Jevaulx. Further early medieval stone carvings are to be found in the south wall in the form of piscinas, or the stone bowls used for the washing of communion vessels. If you are ever in the area, I would strongly encourage a visit. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of History on the Hoof and look forward to talking to you again soon. If you've liked it, please subscribe